Proceed. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Marvellous Ogbo. I'm a mobile developer. So today I'll be talking on Flutter Foundation, mastering core widget for beautiful UI and Flutter. So this will be an interactive session because we'll actually get to learn and I'll also show real life example on what we'll be doing. So let's proceed. So first of all, let's understand what widgets are in Flutter. So widgets are the core building blocks of all Flutter UI. Every UI element is a widget in Flutter, be it text, buttons, layouts, containers. They're all widgets in Flutter. So today we're going to be exploring each some of the basic widgets that we can use to get a beautiful and simple design. So let's start with the widget architecture. So the foundation that is actually used for rendering this widget. Yes. So the widget layers. Then there are two major type of widgets in Flutter. I would say we have the Cupertino UI library and the Material UI library. So Cupertino is commonly having iOS design, and Material is like a general design for both Android and iOS. So now we'll be looking at the basic UI widget. So the first one we'll be talking about is text. First widget we'll be talking about is text, the style, the alignment, and overflow. So if you permit me, we'll come to our code editor. So I hope my text aren't too small for you. Anna, can you please confirm that? Can you zoom in a bit? So okay, so proceed with this.
You can share in chat anything you want.
Okay. All right. So I'll just zoom in a bit. So we'll be working first with the text. So first of all, start with the scaffold. Scaffold help us display what we have currently on our.
And yes, of course, for everyone who knew in Flutter, when you delete scaffold, now you see an iOS
Okay.
emulator is like a cross. It's good. It means that nothing loaded for now. That's why
Yeah.
we need
So
scaffold.
yes, that's why we need scaffold. So scaffold actually help us get the main design. Like without scaffold, it's just an empty screen. Yes. So scaffold is actually the building block of every Flutter screen. So from scaffold, so I'm just going to display it simple text. We're going to use center. We'll get to this later. So it can be visible. So text hello world. Simple text that says hello world. Oh no. Okay, the directional widget found. That's because we didn't wrap this in material app.
In Flutter errors, it's our friends. And
Of course.
yes, you can read error, and here you will find answer how to fix it.
All right. So now note two things, which I didn't add to the slide. So we have material app. So material app is like the wrapper, the start point of every Flutter project. So whenever you want to start your application, you should always make sure you wrap with material app. Yeah, if not, it's going to cause the error we had previously. And then we can now proceed to scaffold. So after material app, we have our scaffold and then the text. So you see, it's just a simple text that says hello world right now. And then we'll talk about styling, alignment, overflow control. So let's work with the styling. So for us to style a text, we can just add the style property. Now, to make things easier, instead of not just get sentence here, so you can just hover on top of this, and then you get to see all the properties in here that you can actually edit. So we are just going to be working with the most basic ones, which is text, the text alignment, and overflow. So let's start text style. So style, text style. So Okay, so we're going to change the color. Colors dot amber. So just take note of what happens here. So and save. You see the color automatically changed to amber, and then it's kind of too small, so we can bold by adding a font text and font size. So we can do similar thing we did for text, the text widget on our text style over on top, and then we'll see all the properties that we'll be able to make adjustment to. So we're going to make adjustment to the font size so it will be visible on our emulator. So font size, have it 30. You see, it's bigger now. And then we can also make it bold. So we'll be using font weight to make it bold. So font weight. So there are lots of bold types here that you can use. You can either use just bold or 100, 200, depending on how on the weight you want your text to be. So I'm going to use 800 so it to be very deep here. So this is a lot about styling. So let's move to alignment. Probably at your free time explore you can explore um the style and the text style property. So let's move on to alignment. Text alignment. So currently it's already aligned to center, but let's see a case where it's not. So I'm just going to add an app bar so we can see the first element. Yes, try to text. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to take out the center so we can see how text align work. So remove this widget. Save. All right. So now it's currently aligned to the left hand side. But here, once we add this text align and align it to the center, of course, it moves to the middle. Okay. Interesting. Now, you see, this is not actually aligned to the middle because it's like just two words. So maybe we should add more to it. This is a Flutter AI club and save. Now you see everything is aligned to the middle. You see the side and all of that. But if I should say align it back to left to start, which is the left hand side, everything would shift to the left hand side. You see it. So and then we also have for end, and then everything shifts to the right hand side. Yes. So we're just going to leave it on center. Now overflow text. So let's say for instance, for overflow, it's more like a case where we have the text overflowing, like it's way more than the size that is given to it. Let's say for instance I wrap this with a size box. I know size box will kind of be new to some persons, but it's fine. Would get there. So I just want to explain how overflow works. So I give this a height of 20, or let's say 30, and save. You see it's actually filling up this page. So for us to actually make it, so in a best case scenario, what we'll do instead of having this error on our code, we can just do this. I should set this to 40 so we can get a clearer view of, yeah, I think I like this. So we can just do this and say text overflow and overflow. Let me say text overflow dot ellipse, and then we can set the max line to 1. So you see how this work? Hello, and then it didn't complete the sentence, but it left this three dots here to show that yeah, there's actually a continuation for the text. So in a case like this, we can maybe add a button. When you click on it, then it's display the rest of it. Yeah. So that is what overflow does. So this is a lot for text. So I'm just gonna copy this and leave it inside of the comment section. Um, yeah. Okay, so we can proceed with the order. So we're moving on to images. So for the images, let me just pick some images from the web so we can display them easily. Um, let's use Unsplash. Give me a minute, please. Okay. So can we just use an image of this. So we're going to copy the image address. Copy image address. So now for image, when displaying an image, we're going to display it on the. I'm going to wrap this with role. I'll explain what the colon is as the session goes on. So for an image, we're going to display it under this text. Yes. So displaying an image, we use a Flutter widget called image dot assets. So image dot assets actually give us control over images inside of our asset folder. But we're going to get there. Let's first of all do the most easiest one, which is image dot network. So for this, whatever URL we have, image URL, we just paste it inside of here and then we save. See it displays here. Okay, perfect. So you see, so and when using a network, when you want to display a network image, probably from the internet or from whatever network source you're getting, you can use image.network. Then when you want to use display images inside of your asset folder, now use image.asset. Now we're going to do an example. So for us to actually display an image from the asset folder, we'll create a folder called assets, and then inside of it, you can just paste in the image you want to use, but I would prefer to just create another file so we can actually have a separation of concern in case if we have fonts also. So I'll go ahead and say images. Oh no, it's not supposed to be a file. A folder called images. And then we can now paste whatever image we want to use. So I'm going to download this image. Download for free. Okay. Okay, perfect. Here we have it. So I'll copy it. Copy. Now we can come back here, paste it in here. Paste. So I'm just going to rename it so it will be easier. Test.jpg. So copy. So what you have to do is we already have this created. So copy this image um part and then come to our popspec.yaml. And then inside of this part assets, you can comment this. You can take this out since they won't be here and choose and paste the asset image. So you can do this. Adding a slash now simply means it should access every folder inside of our asset folder. So you can proceed to running Flutter pop-get. So after adding it inside of our popspec.yaml, we just add it inside and we just have to run this command to make it sync. So after doing that, now we can come to our main.dat and inside of our asset, now we have to copy the parts, copy parts, copy relative parts, sorry. Copy the relative parts and then paste it inside of the assets file. And then I'm going to have this commented out. Oh, I'll just use another text to have things separated. Network. This is an image from the internet. And at the top, I'll have text. This is an image from the assets folder. So when I save, you see the first one. Okay, let me change the network image so we can show. Okay, so let's use this copy image address. So save. All right, yeah. So there we go. Yeah, we have it. We have the network. This is the asset image from the asset folder, and then this is the network image. And then there's one other method you could way you could call an image, but I will leave that to you to practice because of time. So this is image dot files. So for this, you actually use this to access use this to access folder display image from the file system. So basically images from my laptop or from my phone device, we can actually use this. And then you actually have to keep it inside of a file and then import the IO library. Yeah. So this is actually going to cause an error, yes. So I'm just going to comment it out since we are not going to be using it. So that's all about images. So proceeding back to our slide. Slide. Okay. So we've talked about images and icons. Okay, now let's talk about icon. We've talked about network images. We've talked about asset images. So now let's talk about icon. So icon is closely similar to an image, but not an image. I'm going to comment this out so I can have enough space on my screen. Yes. So for icons, just simply say icon and icons dot head, headphone and save display down here. Yes. So and then we can actually make the size bigger. So it's actually have a lot of other properties on top and get to see the other properties you can explore at your free time. We have size, feel, weight, grade, colors, and the likes. So this is what an icon look like. And then also you can actually explore this too. So remember I talked about Cupertino. So there are also Cupertino icons. So this actually give you edge to native iOS feel. So let's say for instance now we can have the arrow back button, chevron back, yeah, and then I'll make the size 100 so it's visible. Okay, you see, this is just similar to the back button that normally used to be at every iOS application. So you can explore the rest of this and later on. So we have buttons. So buttons are like a very essential widget in Flutter. So we have elevated button, we have text button, we have icons button. There are lots more other buttons in Flutter. We have material buttons. We have uh okay, the list is so long and forgetting. Yeah, we can also use inkwell as buttons also, but let's see for what an icon button looks like. Okay. Currently using anti-gravity. Don't mind the auto complete. So this is what okay, just use this so we can see play display. So this is what an icon button looks like. So icon and then we have the icon field. You can also hover on top to see different keys. So for icons, yeah, so you see, it's actually requiring the icon widget. So this icon can actually be an icon or it can be any other thing you want to add to it. It's just a widget. It's not strictly going to be an icon. Yes. And then we can also increase the size of the icon. We can change the color. And then we have this important function called the onPress. So this onPress will actually tells us whatever will actually trigger whatever event you want this button to do. So for instance, now I want to display a snack bar that says volume up button pressed. So I'm going to save and won't click on it. Just look at the bottom here. Yeah, there we have it. But volume up button pressed. So you see, this is just basically how buttons work. So same for text button. We have text button, and then it's just going to show like the text. And then we have elevated button. Yeah, there we have it. We have the outline button. So this is just what you actually enjoy using the most. This is how an elevated button looks like. This is what an outline button looks like. So, and of course, they are fully customizable. You can custom them to whatever you want. So, I'm going to, let's just for an example, let's make text button look just like an elevated button. So, add in a comma. So, add style, um, text button dot style from. I think I want to use. Okay, we have button style, so we can proceed with this. This button the style from, so we have the color changed. Then I'm going to add a background color, and give it color of, let's say teal, so it will be visible enough. Yes, and then we can also add a shadow color. Okay, let's first of all add a border radius, border. Okay, this is the a border radius. Yeah, we reduce the border radius and can add the elevation 5, and we can also add the shadow color. Let's use black so it will be visible enough. All right, there we have it. So you see how fully customizable each of these widgets are. So you can also do the same thing to outline button, you can do same to elevated button, and also you can do same to icon button. So they're closely similar. They just have unique purposes and unique naming convention. So in the case when you want to use a text, have a clickable text, yes, you can just proceed to using text button. It's already and customized like that for you by default. So that's all about button. We have now let's move to layouts in widgets. So layouts, there are different types of layout widgets. We have container, we have size box, we have mainly container size box, and then sometimes we use padding, but what we will come to that later. Let's first of all go on with containers. So permit me to comment this out as well. Okay, so let's move on to containers. So I have enough space. Containers. So a container is just a box, a customizable box, so we can use containers to do a lot of things. Like you can just have a box widget. I'm just going to form a box out of it. Have a weight of 200 and then a height of 200. Then we can give it a color amber, and then we will save. You see it just there here. So you see, this is actually just a simple container, and of course we can actually add a shade to it. So more like we want to make a card or something simple. Yeah. So and also we can do this. We can add decoration to our post decoration. So now when adding a decoration box, we should ensure not to leave the color and property outside. We should keep it inside of the decoration box. So now I'm going to add the curve edge. So can use a border radius for it. Border radius. Yes, and save. We see we have a smooth curved corner. So let me increase it so it should be visible. Yes, perfect. And now you see the text is actually currently aligned to the top left. So we can actually make it come to the middle by just saying alignment, then alignment dot center. And then there we have it at the middle of our container. And then we can proceed to add in elevation. I think I just missed this. Oh, that's elevation. Sorry about that. Not elevation. I mean shadow, box shadow. And then kind of the box shadow, color black offset. And then you see beautiful nice shadow surrounding container. You see how fully customizable containers are. And then we can also we can also add gradients to our container. So I'm going to comment out the color and use the gradients for it. So I'll be using a linear gradient, then amber and red, and there we have it, beautiful. So you see, we can use container for a whole lot of stuff. Like it's fully customizable, and all we need is just it for us. And then if you look at the top, I actually use a size box for this with and text widget at the top. Now a size box is no way close to a container, but in some cases the only case and use case for a size box is just giving it and giving your widget a width and height. Probably like for the text now, we don't have a width and height property inside of our text properties. Yes, so we just have to give it a fixed size using a size box. And then I'm giving it a double dot infinity, which means it should occupy the entire space of the screen, and then a height of 40. So this is basically what a size box does. And then for a container is flexible. It gives us access to height and weight, and then we can also do a whole lot of decorations on it. You can explore this at your free time. So if you hover on top, you see a lot of beautiful customizable options. We have the border. Okay, let's try adding a border color before I close up on this. Border, border dot so color black. Okay, let me use white so it to be visible. And there we have it. Nice looking border. So this is all about containers. You can explore more at your free time. And then we can also add padding in our container. Okay, so, for instance, let's take this alignment off and leave this to come to this point here. Yeah. So if we basically don't want this to stay here, we can just add a padding. And the padding is not inside of the decoration, it's like part of the container widget. So we have it here, padding. So we can say padding, edge, and set that's all 10. So you see, it's kind of push it from the top left and push it to a nice location. So we can actually make it 30 so we can have enough space. Okay, what is too much? Let's say 20. Yeah. So you see we have good space surrounding it now. So it's not looking like the previous time. So we can also do this. And then we can add margin also. So the margin actually gives and keep the distance outside of it. So we have margin, still use edge and set so we can keep it 40 so we can see a clear view. You see, it kind of shifted it down from this. So that is all about containers. Can move to rows and column. Now it gets interesting. So rows and column, they are widgets that accept other widgets. So they accept all a lot of widgets as a list. So now if you look at the top of my scaffold, the body of my scaffold actually started up with a container, with a column, sorry, with a column, and you see it's actually accepting a children. Why? If you should notice, every other widget we've been using actually uses a child property, but for a column it uses a children. So same goes for rows also. So what this column does is it take a list of widgets, it holds list of widgets, and Flutter made it the Flutter team make it more interesting. So in a case like this, you see there are no space between our widgets. So instead of coming down here and start adding space manually, let's say using size box. So the traditional way we will do this and add a height of 20. Sorry, look at my comma. So you see, it kind of give you the space, but then it's just between the text and the icon. So, but we don't want that to happen. So why not just give it a general space that works around the entire column? So the Flutter team added this on a recent updates, I think last year. So now we give it a space of 20. So which means every item inside of the column will have this uniform space of 20. Now you see it moves down 20, this and this. They're all aligned to 20. But if I should take this out, let me take this out so we can see the change again. Yeah. Then this. Yes. So that's how columns work. So that's the work of column. It accepts a lot of multiple widgets. And then for rows, now this is where now rows and column, they are similar. Column is like aligned vertically. So it aligned the widget vertically. While rows align this widget horizontally. So you see it. So actually have it in an horizontal arrangement, which is the first, the headphone, and then the back button, all aligned on the side. And then, so that's, and also rule also have similar properties, space, which says, can give it a space of F, yeah. And then we can also, can move on top of this and see other properties, yes, perfect. So now let's explore the main axis alignment and main and cross axis alignment. So now for the main axis alignment centered is basically mean we should align the property, everything inside of the row to the middle of our screen. So I'll save this. Here we have it at the middle. And then we can also align to end. So aligning to end, shift, move everything to the end of the row. And also for start, so start is just like the default, takes it back to this point, yes. So, and then if we want to keep a uniform space, like space between these two, we can either use space between. Now you see there's a big gap between the both of them, and then we can also use space evenly. So this actually give them equal space, equal surrounding on the length of the screen. The design for this, there we have it. See the space in here and here is same thing, and then they both share equal space at the middle. So that is all about rows and column. You can explore more on it. So let's move ahead to stack. Stack, this is another very interesting widget in Flutter. So a stack, basically what it does is it aligns two or more widgets on top of each other. So let's say we have the headphone on, yes, and then we want this to actually lie on top of the headphone. We can just, okay, I'm just going to change this to, because rows and stacks, rows and column, they are closely similar, except stack have interesting properties. So stack, okay, I'm going to take these two out as they are not part of the stack properties. Save. And then we have it. You see, we have the back arrow button stacked on top of the widget. Now, note something about stack. It's stacking up properties, yes, like we said, but the property that comes first is always behind the one that comes last. So let's say if we should move this upward and reload, you see that now we have the headphone at the outer part and then the back arrow behind it. So this is what a stack does. And then there are some cases where you would want to shift a property left. Let's do this. Wrap with widgets. So first to have good control over it, we use a position widget. Position widget. So I want to align it to top -10. So I want it to move upward. Like I want the headphone to move upward. So let's see how it goes. Okay, okay, it actually moved perfectly fine. But there are cases where there will be no enough space, or probably it's wrapped in a container, and then you won't be able to see the other half of the headphone. In a case like that, you use the stack, the fit, I mean clip behavior, and then set clip. dot hard edge. I'm correct. Um, yeah, you can do this, and then set clip to none, and then fit set stack fit dot loose. So with this, it will be able to move out of wherever you want it and still have a good display. So there's a lot to study about stack. You can read it up on your free time. And we have collection and list and scrolling, which is list view. So the very first we'll be looking at is list view. So list view in Flutter allows single list and scroll list of widgets, allow you to scroll through a list of widgets. It supports lazy loading. Now lazy loading is very an interesting topic, because there a case where you want to load a huge chunk of data, but on a there are some cases where if you're not using a list view, probably using a single shade scroll view, then it's basically just scrolling won't be smooth. But with the help of list view, it actually make this smooth and easier to work with. So for instance, let me uncomment most of what I have here, so you can get a clear view of how scroll a list view works. Okay, perfect. Now, if you look at, I'm having an error, an overflow error at the bottom here. So but I'm just using a column, correct? So the fact that I'm using a column is not a scrollable widget. It just allows you to keep a lot of other data inside. So I can do two things here. I can either change this to a list view and comment out this, and there we have it. See, everything is actually aligned smoothly, so we can actually scroll through. Or I can column, or I can wrap this column in a single shade scroll view. The disadvantage of using a single shade scroll view is the fact that single shade scroll view does not support lazy loading. So if probably you just want to load a short screen, like a short data, not so much, you just want to display mini data, you can actually use a scroll view and it works perfectly fine. But if you're loading a whole chunk of data that is reaching let's say 100 data or more, then you can now switch to list view. Okay, so I'm going to take out the single shade scroll view, remove this widget, and convert this back to list view. And then I'm going to take this out. Yes, so there we have it. So, and then we also have the grid. The grid help us organize items into two-dimensional scrollable grids. So it's excellent for displaying collections of images, card, grid. View has different builders for specific implementation. Now, an example of a grid view is this. Permits me to go to Behance on Splash. So this is how a grid view looks like. So it's, you see, it's actually arranged in a grid of three, and it's clear. So now let's implement something similar in Flutter. So for us to do that, we'll use permit me. I'm not going to use this anymore. Just going to create a new class. Call it my grade. So always remember to wrap with the scaffold. Bar. Okay. So for this, we'll just proceed to add in our body, and we'll display the grid list, the grade view discount. I'm going to use grid view dot builder because it's easier to work with. Yes, so item counts, let's use 10. So now we are going to display a container, a grid of container. Okay, I've not added it to the top here. There we have it. I have to restart. Okay, perfect. So you see we have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, 4, 5. Now let's add some padding. Before we continue, let me just give a slight explanation of what we have here. So now a grid delegate uses a silver grid delegate with fixed count. So this actually help us to specify the number of grade we want, number of rows we want. So currently we have two rows, one, two. So we can split and increase it to four, and there we have it, one, two, three, four rows. So, but I'm going to leave it at two, and now we can add a cross axis spacing and main axis spacing. So this actually helps to give spaces between each of them. Save. So perfect. So you see we have the space in between horizontally and vertically. We can also increase this to three, just so we can get a clear view. Yes, perfect. So also note something about grid view. Let me increase the count to 30. So grid view are also scrollable. So they are not just stagnant and then you start wrapping with a list view. So it's also scrollable and flexible. So it also supports lazy loading too for grid views. So there are a lot of other properties you can work with. So let's say, for instance, we want to reduce the ratio of each property. We can say hide aspect ratio of 1, and then it okay, this is currently 1, so let's use 1.5 and see. You see, they actually got smaller. So we can actually increase and decrease the aspect ratio using this property. So grid cells can be customized using different delegates, exactly just like we did at this point here. We use them silver grid delegates with fixed cross counts. So yeah, a lot of other types of grid and silver delegates we can use. Okay, so we'll go back to the previous one, my app. Mm, my app. So I'm going to change this back to column. So yeah, we'll be talking about responsive and adaptive layers, and we're going to be using expanded and flexible widgets. So note, expanded and flexible widgets, they are very dangerous in our code. Yes, I said so because they used to cause a lot of errors when they are not properly used. So basically, where the use cases for this is where you have okay, let's say for instance now, let me load this. We have this, and then we are having a lot of space, we're having an overflow space down here, but we don't want this hello world to scroll. Remember when this was a list view, everything inside of it scrolls, including this text. So we don't want this text to scroll along, and then we want the list, the rest of it to scroll. So and they're already covering the whole part of this. Now we can simply do this by saying, by doing wrapping the list view with an expanded widget. So let's change this back to column. So now note, column actually take the entire width and height of the screen. So that is one. So let's get down to this point. So this is the hello world text. So I'm going to wrap the orders with a list view. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this with a list view. And now you see when I reload without adding and expanding, you see that there's an error. Null check operator using on a null value. We have render box was not laid. out. So this error happens because we are actually given a list view, and list view now can't actually work with the width. The it can't automatically occupy the remaining space we are having here. So for us to actually fix this, we wrap with expanded. So a list view can't work when there is no height and space. So it actually needs a height and width, I mean not space, sorry. It needs a height and width for it to actually run smoothly. So with the help of expanded, expanded is telling it look at the entire screen. There are some other spaces around it. So go through it, occupy the rest of the space that is available for that screen. So that is what expanded is used for. So when I save, you see, it's actually occupied the rest, and I can scroll without the hello world text scrolling along with it. So that is how an expanded widget works. Similar goes for flexible. They're slightly different though. They're slightly different, but just slightly. So in most cases, whatever you use expanded for, you can then use a flexible widget for it. So let's move on to media query and layout building. So media queries and layout and media queries and layout builder. Sorry. So a media query is like a function class in Flutter that help us determine the size of the screen. So let's say for instance, I'm just going to print out the weight of this emulator. So for me to do that, I can just come to the top and say, let me create a variable quickly. Final weight. Okay, my AI editor helped me out. So we have the weight and height. So let's display it down below this text. So we have text, screen, width. So say ch. And then we can do the same thing to text, screen, height. So saved. And there we have it. So this device is currently having a screen width of 402 pixel and then a height of 874 pixel. Now we can actually use this in our code. So for instance, note these are actually doubles. The return type are in double. So let's say for instance, I want the width of this text and the size of this text to actually align with the width of my device. So if I'm having a bigger screen, then the width should also expand more. So I can simply do this, say width times 0.5. So 0.5 simply means the font size is 0.5% of the screen width. So I believe 0.5, which is half of this, would be like 201, which is extremely big. So let's save. Okay, that's fair. Render box overflow. Okay, it's reloaded, but let's remove this height here. Yeah, and there we have it. See how big it is. So, but we can also reduce it. So let's use 5% of the screen width. Yeah, and there we have it. So we're using 5% of the current screen width to the end for the size of this. So if we eventually we should go on a bigger screen, the text will actually grow bigger along the with a bigger screen. So this is actually what enables have what actually help with responsive designs a lot too. And then for layout builders, they're just should I say a container? Yeah, they are containers that hold a widget, and then whatever widget that is inside of that container actually use the size that was given to the use the parent and the size of the parent widget that is surrounding the layout builder. So for example, we can have a size boss of width, let's use 400, and height 400. So if we should have a layout boss inside a layout builder inside of here, whatever value okay, substance construct. Yes. constraint. So basically what so now we given the parent of this layered builder is having a width and height of 400. So wherever this layered builder is actually going to fit in to always use 400 as its default size. So we can now share this 400 now between multiple widgets inside of it. So let's say we have more than one container. Let me wrap this with a column. We have more than one container. We have another container too. And then let's give them, we can actually use, yes, we can have the constraint as, so now this container, the amber colored container is using 5% of it, which is like 200 for a tweet, and same thing for the red container. So you see it. So let's say I reduce this size of this to 100. You see the containers also reduce alongside with it. So that is what a layout builder is used for. So it's actually help us keep everything. And let's say we have a container, and then inside of that container, we want to have all the designs inside of it, but we don't want it to overflow. We can use a layout builder to actually to achieve that. So and then beside just and best use case, like I said, it's used for responsive designs. So we now have team data. Now team data is also a very important widget in Flutter. It helps keep track of lights and dark mode and help for consistent styling. Now, if you look at from our previous code here, I have a text style. But now this text style is just for this particular text at the top here. But let's say I want a general text. I want the general text to have a the general text on my application to have a font size of 20. So instead of coming down here and start looking for all the text widgets, I can just come to the top, add inside of my material app, add the theme widgets here and the theme property that accepts the theme widgets. And then also I can set the, yes, let's proceed first of all. I will get back to that. So text theme, we have text theme. So I can now set text theme, and now setting the body large color. So all I'm setting every large body text to have a color of amber. If I should save, you see, okay, there's no effect yet, but let's use body medium. I think that's the most body small. Just looking for the right one. Okay, let's restart. Okay, so this is actually how you add your text. So we can also keep track of the light and dark theme here. So I'm going to add the dark and make it copy it so you can hold the text theme. So now I'm switching to a dark theme. So let me restart this. Yes, you see everything has automatically turned to a dark theme, and you see the texts and icons here automatically aligned to the dark theme. So I'm going to switch back to lights and restart. All right, so there we have it. So this is there's a lot you can do with dark theme and with Steam data. I mean, so you can explore this. It's actually a very fun widget to explore. And then we have stateless and stateful widgets. So stateless and stateful widgets are two most essential widgets in Flutter. So the most used widgets in Flutter basically are stateful and stateless widgets. So every widget you see currently are either every widget you see currently are either a product of stateless widget or a stateful widget. So for instance now, for this example I did, I'm currently using a stateless widget. Reason be because we don't have any states we are handling right now. So we stick to a stateless widget. So stateless widgets are static. So whatever is inside of a stateless widget cannot change. But whatever is in a stateful widget, you can change it. Stateless widgets are static, stateless widgets are static, and stateful widgets are dynamic. So you can easily change whatever property is inside of a stateful widget, but you can't do the same to a stateless widget. And gesture detectors. So the gesture detectors help us with tapping. They are similar to button, but they have more features than button. So for gesture detectors, is the gesture detectors, we can we have the on drag, we have a lot of functions. Yeah, we have on tap down, on tap up, on tap, tap to move, tap to cancel, and a lot of functions we can use a gesture detector for. So it's very, very interesting. You can explore this at your free time. And finally, best practices. So build small widgets. So after this, don't just go hang around. Like practice a lot with widgets. Flutter widgets are very interesting. There are a lot of widgets out there. These are just the most basic ones I could pick out for this session. So there are a lot of widgets out there that you can actually explore, and they are very fun to use. So reuse common patterns. So learn to reuse common patterns and stick to them. They're actually very nice and clean. Sorry for that. So they're nice and clean. And finally, we have use theming for consistency. Jesus Christ. Now use theming for consistency. So let's say if you're having a dark theme and a light theme, you can use the theme data class for to get a consistent data. So I think that should be all. Thank you very, very much. I'll be open for questions now.